Hey everyone, and welcome to another movie review. Today we are actually dipping our toes into a genre that we have yet to dip into. Now, we have done movies that are considered woke movies. We have done movies that are comic book based, horror based, thriller based, as well as more on the conservative realm, as you know, of Terror on the Prairie. Now, we are actually dipping our toes more in a Christian based flick that actually was in theaters for a short period of time, which was Friday, Saturday, and I just got back from seeing it, which if you're seeing this tomorrow or any day after, it would actually be Sunday. So we will be discussing, of course, the different adaptation of the Left Behind series, and that is Left Behind: Rise of the Antichrist.
Hello there, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and children.
If you're not familiar with the Left Behind book series, there's actually 16 different books that covers the wide span of the Revelation chapter in the Bible. The books are done by, of course, Tim LaHaye and then Jerry B. Jenkins. Now, we did have a trilogy back in the early 2000s starring Kirk Cameron, and that was the Left Behind movie done in 2000, Left Behind 2, Tribulation Force, which was done in 2002, and then 2005's Left Behind 3, World at War. Now, we did have a remake of the flick starring Nicolas Cage that came out in 2014. Now we have our different version, our reimagining of the Left Behind series flicks, and that is, of course, directed and starring Kevin Sorbo, as well as Tim McDonough. Now, if you haven't seen the early 2000 rendition with Kirk Cameron, I will say that it did not age well. Of course, with that movie, it does base itself off of more the very first books of the series, which is, of course, takes place during the vanishing of individuals. Now, with that, of course, it does lead up to what we are given today. However, it's more in a steady process back then. The one thing that it had going for it is more of the book source material that it stayed true in. However, the CGI elements is not what actually transpired or transgressed well into the modern day flicks. You can tell it's very CGI'd, very much so as a less rendered version of the sequences. Now, don't get me wrong, if you like the story behind it, it's still really good. I have yet to see 2014's Nicolas Cage's version, but like I said, I came back today watching the Kevin Sorbo Left Behind: Rise of the Antichrist. Now, I will say that this movie does do more with practical effects, thank goodness, than CGI, which, of course, will transition better later on during the future, rather than what we had earlier depictions of Kirk Cameron's version with the CGI. Now, as far as the story goes, it does keep you enthralled within the flick. It does have a good storyline to keep you engaging. There are very much of a thriller elements that, of course, Hollywood movies have in this that kind of gets you worried about the main characters of the film. Now, the time period of when this film takes place is actually past the first and second book. This is going towards more of the vanishing has already happened and the Antichrist is actually rising in the world. Now, with this film, the way that it sets apart from the other films is the fact that it actually hones in on more of the modern days of what's going on. Now, there are some what's labeled as conspiracy theories, even though some conspiracy theories have been proven true. So it does hone in more of a modern version of what's happening in the world today. Now, when the CGI elements do take place, you can't really tell, or the way that they did it, as far as when you're depicting the Antichrist and he's switching from his normal behavior to a devilish behavior, there's a coloration tone switch. So that's very helpful just because of the fact that it's not relying on the CGI elements of that. And of course, that coloration can be either fixed in the future or you get the basic concept of what's happening, which is really well done. When it comes to the characters or the actors for those characters, they are very engaging as well as by the meaning of keeping you enthralled with them. There are certain elements to it that makes it very much personable where you can relate to a character in some way or some form. My personal favorite character was Buck. He was very much the I'll believe it when I see it type of individual rather than just believing. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a believer. However, his main thing is he wants to be proven. He's that journalist. He wants to go out on an adventure and then do the research and make sure that he gets that research fed, especially if it's true. And during the process, you kind of see the transition of him being the typical news journalist into the believer that the actual end times have just came upon, that the individuals who did vanish, it was because it was done through God's will. But besides that, though, the music in the flick is actually really well done. It does keep you engaged with the film. When it does need to have a more serious tone, it has that. Cinematography is not bad for the type of film that it is. Now, there are a lot of Christian movies out there that are bad within the cinematography elements. This is actually done very well as the lighting and the coloration of the flick as well. So just keep that in mind. Overall, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it much more than the earlier versions, even though, again, I haven't seen Nicolas Cage, but Kirk Cameron, I've seen the first one and the second one. Story-wise, they were well done. However, again, they didn't age well. This film may not have been or stayed true to the books more so than the original Kirk Cameron ones, which did stay true more to the books, but it sets it up in a way that it will age well throughout the decade. Kevin Sorbo did a really well job, whether if you agree with him or not, on his political aspects or his personal aspects, or if you're a fan of Hercules. It doesn't matter, because what you're going into is a film, especially if you like Christian-based films, that is very well done in the nature and atmosphere that it's being taken place in. So with that in mind, I highly recommend it if you like those types of flicks, if you like the Christian course values, as well as if you are a fan of Kevin Sorbo, would highly recommend it. However, it was only 3 days in theaters, so now you kind of have to wait till it's on demand. But regardless, though, I enjoyed it. Did you guys see it? And if you did, if you were one of those few people that did, let me know. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Did it actually stay true more to the books than what I know, because I never read them? But again, let us know down in the comments. Subscribe to all of our social platforms, and we'll see you next time on the next review.